Yeah.
Hopefully this records smoothly and life is good.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm good, man. Stoked to be here with you. Really stoked on what you're doing with the Facebook page, and it's my favorite page on all of Facebook. So just because it
Rad.
kind of brings you back to your roots and stuff like that, and it's good to finally catch up, real time because I know you and I have been trading messages for years now.
Yeah, a little while.
Yep. So yeah, doing all
Yeah, dude.
right.
So give people that don't know Lars Tribus kind of the overview. Who are you? What are you all about?
Yeah, all right. So I've been mountain biking for a long time. Since the 80s. When I was probably in fourth or third or fourth grade, my dad had a mountain bike and I used to just steal it and rip around town on it all the time. I think in 1984 is when he bought his first mountain bike, and he
Wow.
kind of got it to like drag deer out of the woods with. So probably actually it was maybe like 83, something like that. And I still have the bike in the out in the back. It's pretty cool. It still has the original like Comp 2 tires and foam grips and
Yeah.
integrated bar and stem, but always had a passion for it. It wasn't until after I graduated college that I started racing, which was mid 90s. I did cross country for a couple years, but just like in passing, maybe like two or three cross country races a year in
Hmm.
94 and 95. And in 96, I kind of really started to go all in and said, I'm going to kind of drop a lot of my other focus on skiing, surfing, skateboarding, motocross, just a bunch of different sports that I was like super into, and just really focus on racing bikes. And still was racing cross country and downhill, but quickly learned as I graduated to expert class in downhill that I wasn't really as capable to hold my own in expert class cross country, and then turned semi-pro, and that was it. I was like done with cross country. It's just a
Hmm.
very different discipline, and all my years on two wheels and on BMX and on a moto bike just translated way better. And I loved downhill just a whole lot more. Like it just, the discipline spoke to me. I love the adrenaline. I love that you still needed to be fit, but it was more like fit for a couple minutes versus a
Yeah.
couple hours, different kind of pain. And yeah, that was basically my roots
Yeah.
where it all started.
What was your first mountain bike? The one you got from your dad?
So that one was called a Marushan. I don't even know if the brand, how much longer the brand existed, but my first
Yeah.
mountain bike was a Diamondback Ascent.
Yeah.
And then I upgraded to a Diamondback Apex um, and then a Trek 950. So those were my first few bikes back in the day.
Nice. And then you said like your first suspension bike was a GTLTS.
Yeah, so in 96, right around that time, I basically spent like 20% of my gross pre-tax income on a GT LTS 1. I
Hmm.
walked into the bike shop because I needed a shifter cable with like $12 in my pocket, and I walked out of the bike shop with a GT LTS 1 and a lot of debt. And I think I
Yeah.
maxed out one of my first credit cards that I ever got. So the bike was close to 3 grand, and at the time my salary was $13,000, and I had like a measly sales commission.
Yeah.
I think I made 20 grand that whole year, and I spent over $3,000 on a bicycle. So I had my
Good.
priorities in check.
Good investment though. I had a college or student loan or whatever freshman year in college for like $10,000, and I went and bought a Cannondale Super V2000 for like $2,400. So I spent my tuition on a bike, but dude, I converted that thing. I kept just kind of rolling it over every year, and it was like an investment that I just kept kind of flipping the bike every year and getting a new bike every year. So I figured it
Yeah.
was money well spent.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. When did you start?
I mean, it's
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
When did you start racing downhill?
So I started in 96. I think in 1996 on that GT, I went up to Mount Snow for the Norba National. I
Mm-hmm.
was riding sport class still. If you remember the old categories back in the Norba days, beginner, sport, expert, semi-pro, pro.
Mm-hmm.
And they were pretty strict about upgrading. Like you had to have three top threes at nationals, and there are only five nationals a year, but you had to have three top threes in order to bump up proficiency. And I went up to Mount Snow as a sport class rider. I got third. I was sleeping in a tent with a couple college buddies, and it was just
Mm-hmm.
very like the real early days. And I was hooked. I like getting third, standing on a podium at a national with really like that was my intro into mountain biking and like into the whole Norba scene. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, this is super cool. So I locked in on it. I did a whole bunch of racing on the East Coast through the remainder of 96. And I think I even went out to Mammoth. And raced there at the end of that season. And in 97, that's really where things started to kind of materialize. You know, I turned expert. We started our own team. I was Team Tachycardia in 97. Through the bike shop was one of our the bike shop that I bought my GT from was a GT
Mm-hmm.
shop, and we got like a GT Pro deal through the
Mm-hmm.
bike shop for that team. Myself, Todd Bosch, and a few others. Kyle Ebbett was on the team.
Nice.
Uh, Jesse Witzel, who ended up moving on to the RockShox Devo team, he
Mm-hmm.
was on the team. But there was just a handful of East Coast guys. And 97, I went all in, like all in, and started the season as an expert. Won, I think, four nationals, and was trying to upgrade in the process. Bumped up to semi-pro for the finals. I think I got fourth or fifth in Deer Valley, Utah, which was the finals that year. And then I had a petition really hard to turn pro in 98, and um, had Jesse Witzel's father, who was connected with Norba, write a letter to petition. And I had also won the Pro Expert Series at Plattekill in 97, and we had a lot of pros coming through. So it is a year that I kind of found my speed. Like that
Mm-hmm.
year, even though I was running expert class, my time would have been like 16th in pro at
Mm-hmm.
Seven Springs. And um, I think when I got that result at Deer Valley, I would have been in like the top 20 in pro class based on times. But and we raced the same day, so the courses were pretty similar. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
like dry one day and muddy the next. Um, but I used that to kind of like leverage the petition, and I was granted my pro card in 98 and signed on with Spooky Cycles for 98.
When did you get the GT STS downhill bike?
That was 97. So
Okay.
they were coming out with this bike, and Sid's bike shop in New York City was the bike shop that kind of orchestrated that deal with GT.
Mm-hmm.
And that bike was just like I thought it was the coolest. You know, it was like the
Yeah.
thermoplastic with the aluminum lugs um and just really cool. It came, we bought our whole team bought the frame and fork kit, which had a RockShox Judy DHO on it,
Oh,
or
really?
yeah, it was like their first single crown fork for the
Yeah.
general, I'm sorry, double crown, dual crown fork for the general public.
Yeah.
That year, the factory teams were all running boxers, but that season, if you weren't, you know, like sponsored by RockShox, the best you could get was I believe it was the DHO, was a dual crown 4-inch travel fork. I know
Yeah.
Marzocco, I think that year made a 5-inch travel fork, um, but that was the bike. Came as a frame kit.
Mm-hmm.
I still have one of the cranks. It had AC cranks on it and an AC chain guide, and I still have one of the cranks, the crank on it I didn't break.
Yeah.
Um, but and it's sort of how I formed a relationship with GT. There was a guy in the warranty department named Mike Mountner who was also
Mm-hmm.
a racer, and I broke a whole lot of those bikes, and
Yeah.
he just kept replacing them for me to keep the wheels under me. And we met because he was also racing semi-pro. I was racing semi-pro, and you know, he knew me from the warranty department, right? So,
GT was super solid, dude. I mean, I only had a couple STSs, but I broke 15 of the iDrives. Um, because I mean, I'm tall. I'm 6'3". Back then I didn't weigh a lot, but like I rode every bike like it was a downhill bike, you know. I just rode the shit out of them, even when I was racing cross country, you know.
Yeah.
And they would they just keep sending me new frames. They didn't care. They were starting to make custom frames for me. They gave me STS drives. They gave me aluminum drives. They gave me custom drives. And yeah, I got in good with this engineer named Barry Burke,
Yeah.
who was like designing new stuff. And I think he designed the Ruckus. And he called me one day. He's like, "Yeah, Chuck, we got this burly ass bike. It's got like a Coke can right in the middle of it." I'm like, "Right on, send me one of those." And if you remember the first Ruckus, it had this
Oh yeah, I do. So
big
trick
hole right
looking.
in the
Yeah.
middle of it. He's like, "Yeah, it's got a
Yeah.
Coke can right in the middle of it."
Yeah. Super
So
cool.
GT was a really good company. Were you breaking the carbon frames?
Um, on that bike, I think my biggest problem with that bike was separating the thermoplastic from the lugs.
Yeah,
I never had a catastrophic failure, but the lugs would come loose from where they bonded. I don't really know exactly how they bonded it. I can't really remember, but the thermoplastic in the lug would end up kind of giving
yeah,
you that kind of phenomena where it was an extra 2 inches of travel.
yeah,
Um, and I never had a catastrophic failure. I think I did break a few of you know how the shock mounted to that like arched link in the back. I think I broke a few of those links as well.
yeah,
It was mostly the thermoplastic was the issue. And that, that era was like, thank goodness for GT because I was still like super poor and, like cycling was my life and living without a bike would have been really just hard on the soul, and
yeah,
the era where like it was just the F around and find out era. Like you broke everything. As
yeah,
soon as they made one thing a little stronger, you found the next weakest link. And as soon as they made that next weakest link stronger, you found out what was next. Like dual crowns made frames break because none of the frames were designed for that stiff of a fork. And then they made frames stronger and wheels would explode. And then they'd make wheels stronger and tires, you couldn't keep airing them because the sidewalls were just not equipped for the strength of the rims, And
yeah. And
um,
the DHO fork was basically just a oversized Judy, so it had the sealed cartridge in it. And
yep,
that taught them about like heat expansion because the cartridges would just blow, right? So even when they went to the Boxer, I just talked to Joe Stanish, who was on the R&D team for the Boxer back in 1997, and he was
yep,
like, "Yeah, dude, the first Boxer was a big Judy. It had a cartridge in it, but it still suffered like thermal expansion and it would blow. So the first prototype Boxer was just a big DHO, which was just a big Judy. And then they finally, like, the light bulb went off. They're like, yeah, we need to go open bath. And that's when they went with the hydrocoil. But
that's sick. I never knew that.
I just found out the other day, I did this kind of write up on the history of the Boxer, and Joe Stanish, who's in our group, I remembered like years ago he was saying that he like helped design the Boxer, and so I pinged him. I'm like, "Hey, dude, can you call me?" And yeah, he told me kind of all about it. So
That's badass.
gave me some pictures of his prototypes. He's got like prototype polished Boxers, unpainted. So
Ooh, yeah, that's like the unobtainium.
I've never seen a polished Boxer before. So um, I wanted to share my desktop real quick. So this is the only picture I can find, or you sent me. Is this your LTS or your STS? This must be the
That would
STS.
be, yeah, that's the STS. So that was 97. I think that picture is Deer Valley, Utah. Foot out, flat out. Like that was sort of, I did clip in for a few years, but I've been
Yeah,
running flat. I've been running completely just for downhill. Like I ride XC clipped in and trail and all that stuff. But um, yeah, that was it. That was Team Tachycardia. You can see Sid's bike shop there on the sleeve, and
yep.
um, just that's the roots. That's 1997 right there.
That's a really good picture too. It's really clear.
Yeah, it's that's just a photo of a photo, I think, like a
Really.
modern day iPhone photo of an old school printed on a piece of printer paper photo. Yeah, that was pretty cool, man. That was a really good crew. My buddy Todd Bosch kind of really like spearheaded the jersey design. You can see Constructors Inc. on there. That was his old man's company, and
Okay.
um, Yeah, so that had to have been Deer Valley. So that was the year I raced semi-pro. So that was my last non-professional race ever.
And then after that, you went to Spooky?
I did, yeah. And what a cool thing, like getting an opportunity to work with Frank the Welder, and
Yep.
that bike was so sick. Like spooky handlebars, the chromoly bars. It had Brooklyn Machine Works brakes and the brake supports. I mean, man, I wish I had that bike still. White Industry hubs, Rhino
It,
lights, profile cranks. Like you couldn't make a cooler metalhead, I don't think.
but you were supposed to get a Project X and never got one?
Yeah, so Spooky kind of put fielded basically like a full team and a program, and Scott Packingham was the manager of it, and he honestly did a great job. He got us set up with all kinds of sponsors. I had White Brothers on my own. That was like I guess like a pro deal where I got those forks. I think it was an amazing deal for me, and I was again, it's my first year pro, but um talking about great warranties, like I think I bent like 8 or 9 of those forks, those DC-90 forks, and they just kept replacing them. Um, but yeah, the Tioga, they set me up with. That's where I met Jeff Holt, and he introduced me to some other folks that kind of parlayed into other sponsorship deals. But that was the bike, and then the Spooky, the brand, went through some financial trouble, and they never made any more Project X's. And I basically that whole season rode with like Crank clothing, and Spooky was my listed sponsor for everything. I had Spooky stickers on my downhill bike, but my downhill bike was still the same. Well, it wasn't really the same STS DH as the year before because, like I said, I kept getting new ones. But I rode a STS DH that entire season, 98 season, as my first year pro, but riding for Spooky. And I'll never forget, like I stayed super loyal to the brand, and it was still like a big honor for me to ride from that for them.
Hmm.
And Frank was just, Frank. He's Frank the Welder. The dude's been around and he's seen everything. And I think he at the time he just said, I have a lot of respect for how you handled this because we didn't come through on our end and promise what we promised, but you delivered and promised, you kept your promise. And he ended up giving me his personal Project X towards the end of that season, just as like a gift,
Yeah.
Um, and Spooky was closing its doors, so like in that version of Spooky, they've lived on, but um I think that version was sort of like just in a tough spot financially or whatever it was. And they didn't have a program set up for 99. So I was walking out the door and he didn't need to do that. He gave me his own personal Project X as like like, you deserve this. Here's my personal bike. I thought that was like super sick. And he's somebody that will always be like, um, just somebody that I just have insane amount of respect for. And it's so rad seeing what he's doing with Nico with the Frameworks program. All these years later, he's still like, an icon, like a mogul in the mountain bike world. So love
Yeah,
seeing that.
he's really good people. He and I have talked a little bit. I've been trying to get him on the podcast, but he doesn't like to brag, so I'll keep working on him. But was he part owner of Spooky, or was he just fabricator?
I'm not entirely positive what that relationship looked like. I always felt like he was part owner of the company. He was basically like the guy that I mostly interacted with and worked with. But I'm not positive how the financial part went.
Hmm.
The only thing that I kind of like remember from the story is they had like they were just had some money tied up and had a whole bunch of material, but they didn't have all the material they needed to complete the Project X, and so they could never finish the project or never finish like the run of bikes to sell them. So,
Hmm.
not exactly sure what happened with that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, beautiful bike though. Okay, so is this the same STS but with a White Brothers inverted fork?
yep, that is. So
And
that is 98, and that's basically what I look like. I don't know if I can't quite see if there's a Spooky sticker on a down tube of that one, but that was the year I was riding for Spooky.
yeah,
I think you just had the whole crank crew on recently.
yeah.
Um, but obviously I was running. Oh yeah, you can see the spooky sticker on my helmet. So I was doing my best to fly the colors.
Yep.
But you know, that year, that's when I met the whole Crank Pro Junior X team. Those guys are awesome. They flew in from Australia and they're just so rad, so fast, so talented, so fun, so rowdy. And I think it was between either West Virginia and Vermont or Seven Springs in Vermont or whatever it was. They stayed with me for a couple weeks. I was living right outside the New York City area, and we rode so hard every day, and just built like a lifelong friendship with that crew. Nathan, Rennie, Kavarik, um, and
Mark
Jared Rando was
Rogers.
in for just a little bit, and then Johnny Waddell. Just super cool. And the team was, and it was Mark Rogers obviously was there too
Yeah.
because he was basically trying to run the team, but I think the team was running him. They were
Dude.
hard crew
Dude,
to
it's
pin
so
down, man.
funny. It's so funny. I don't know Mark real well. Like, we talk a little bit and he came on the podcast and he's a really good dude. And like he's a sales guy, which, I got him on the podcast and he just ran the show. But like I'm pretty sure that dude doesn't swear or drink. And he's trying to herd this like group of Australian cats who I mean, they
Yeah. And he
cause
was a kid
trouble.
himself, like he was a rider on a team and he was
Yeah.
just a guy, like his dad owned Crank and he was, just because obviously everything's on a pretty tight budget
Yeah.
and, it was basically like he was like a athlete manager, but he was only a kid himself. I think he was probably only 18 at the time. And
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
18-year-old to try to manage a bunch of other 18-year-olds or 17-year-olds,
A
like
bunch
good luck with
of
that.
bunch of
Especially
wild childs.
especially those guys. Yeah, yeah.
I didn't
Dude,
realize
it's
how big
awesome.
Crank. I didn't realize how big Crank was. I posted this thing on Instagram about like the GTLTS boomerang. Like I just collect like pictures and crap, right? So I have
Yeah.
this whole montage of like the boomerang. I'm like, hey, here's the boomerang. And Mark like commented, he's like, you realize every one of those riders is riding on Crank gear? I'm like, no, like Mike King, Eric Carter. I didn't even realize it. I didn't realize how big Crank was back in like '98 or so.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So
pretty cool.
yeah, had Shams March on recently. He was on Crank, so I didn't realize how cool they were. Mark Rogers was telling me a couple years ago. He's like, "Dude, we got to tell the story of Crank." I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And then we had him on, and I was laughing for like 2 hours straight.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Um,
this one's rad. Do you still have this bike?
yeah, I actually reacquired that. So that bike I sold in probably 2002, 2003, something like that. I kept that one for a while, like, because that bike was from If, so 99. I got that bike. That's when I went to Independent Fabrications. This bike was so sick. It was designed by Guy Stevenson and Jody Stoddard. I think Jody Stoddard did most of the design. He was like a
Hmm.
really, really fast rider out of the Massachusetts area. And he's how I found out about If. I just was like enamored by the bike, I really wanted a steel hardtail. Like it was still like obviously like just hitting dirt jumps and slalom was a big thing. So super attracted to the brand. They had the sickest image and Jody made that bike. It was way ahead of its time. I think it had like a 16-inch chainstay, that was in the era of like 17 and 3/4 inch chainstays.
Hmm.
Um, and pretty tight top tube, somewhere around like 22 inches, and really slack for a hardtail in that time. I think it was maybe like 70-degree head tube, but everything was like 71, 72, 73 degree head angles back then. So it was a low BB, short chainstay, slack, um, way ahead of its time, crazy light. The feel on that bike was insane because steel is real. It just flexed so good, and the dudes at If were just like masters at the craft of building hardtail frames. And yeah, I bought that bike back. The guy, my buddy who I sold it to, he went into um like basically as a contractor after a career in the military and he was living in Germany And for, I don't know, 2 decades or something, like 2 decades later, I just got this bike back 3 years ago, maybe. And I was like, "Hey, do you still have that?" And he said, "I think it's at a bike shop in like southern New York State. Let me call and find out if they still have it." And they did, and I bought it back for them or from him, but it was just it was on the wall in a bike shop in New York. Still has my name on the top tube. The
Yeah.
seat is different. Like I have since replaced the seat with the seat that I had on it originally,
Hmm.
which was one of those Tioga kind of slim version seats. So that seat is back on it. I didn't replace the seat post yet. It had a Thompson post on it. And I did buy a new ceramic rim and also the matching front tire because that one had a semi-slick Tioga, which I ran on there sometimes.
Hmm.
Forks aren't the same. I had a black Judy SL, I think, on it with a black crown. So I found one, from 99 and I bought that, but I just haven't like put it on there yet. But yeah, man, that's sometimes when you find your old bikes, you just got to get them back. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
dude. There's so many bikes I wish I had kept. I think I told you I had one of Kurt Stockton's Kestrel Rubicons. Like if the Kestrel Rubicon that like you've seen in the magazines with the two
Yeah.
shocks, I got his bike with all the crazy shit on it. It was all red Ringley headset, Ringley stem, Ringley hubs, red Kuka cranks, like just fucking crazy. And I ended up giving that bike away when Hurricane Katrina hit in 2005. Some guy posted on MTBR that he lost everything, lost his house, lost his bike. And I'm like, fuck, dude, I have this old Kestrel. I'll just give it to you. Damn it.
Wow.
I know. I
The one
know.
that got away.
I don't regret giving him a bike, but I'm like, damn it, why'd I have to give him that bike?
Right? Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
dude, but I always thought of independent like as a cross country hardtail, even like a single speed kind of company. What are they doing building dual slalom and race sponsoring downhill racers?
They really were exactly what you just said. They were, I think the few of the founding members came from Fat Chance, and they really were more of a cross-country type company. But again, I think Guy Stevenson, who was a dude from Jersey, and Jody Stoddard, and Jody is really the guy that I knew of their riders. Um, I'm gonna be totally honest. Like Jody just looked so freaking pro, and I wanted to steal hardtail, so I was like, "Can you introduce me to those guys?"
Hmm.
And he did, and that's sort of how it started. So, but like that was an era where everybody, like, if you went like Plattekill Mountain was the big East Coast race scene back then. They did like 7 races, and they'd have 800 riders at a downhill race. Like that's huge for even today's standards for one of
Yeah.
their big races, maybe like 600, 500, 600 on average. It's a really big turnout. But it was because the sport hadn't really diversified. You didn't have free ride and dirt jump and slope style and downhill and enduro and cross country and gravel and every other kind of like offshoot. You basically had a mountain bike race, and everybody who had a mountain bike race went to it. If you raced cross country, you were probably going to a downhill race just because that's where the race was that weekend.
Hmm.
So, probably wasn't as uncommon to see like the more cross country focused type companies like marketing and doing their thing in downhill. And downhill was like really young, honestly. Like a lot changed from 96 to 98. Like you'd show up to a mountain bike race in 96 and there was a good chance you're riding one bike for slalom, downhill, and cross country, maybe
Yeah, so
95.
what year was this bike? 98, 99?
This was 99. Yeah.
Because the hydrocoil would have just come out, I
Yeah.
think.
So that, like I said, that fork isn't the original one I had on it, but it was very similar. Mine was just
Okay.
black on black, had black crown, black lowers,
Yeah.
and it honestly looked a lot sicker. And it did look a little better with the ceramic rear rim too, just because it kind of murdered out the bike a little bit more.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a rad bike, dude. You got to keep that one.
oh, for sure. It's in the wall in my shop now. Like you can see it in the background of when we do these pro downhill podcasts.
Yeah.
I think one of the things you can see in the backdrop. Um, but that bike I'll keep forever just because that's the first like like we're building this bike and painting this bike for Lars, like my metalhead was the first bike I got like built for me, but it was sort of like just one of the metalheads that they ran, like everybody
Hmm.
got the same metalhead. This one was like purpose built for me. So it's like, pretty special for me.
And so Independent bought you an Intense M1,
Yes, yep, which was obviously super common back then.
but did you
Um,
ask for an Intense M1 or is that just kind of what they were doing?
well, this is what they were doing. It's what Jody was riding and Guy Stevenson as well. Um, and it was another one of the reasons that like attracted me to If because honestly, like in '99, the Intense was the bike. Like everybody was running it for a reason. You had like Mongoose, Giant, um, I mean, Iron Horse, pick a brand. I mean, almost everybody was Harrow. Almost everybody was running a rebranded or rebadged M1,
Yeah.
and so was If. Um, and this one in particular, this is 2000. So this is my If from 2000. That one they painted specifically just for the X Games. And super cool story on this bike. I sold this bike in maybe 2001. Because honestly, like selling your used bikes was in large part like how you funded part of your next season, right?
Yeah.
So I sold this bike back in 2001, and maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, you posted something about all the rebadged M1s, and I just made a comment in there in on one of your posts saying, I wish I never sold my X Games bike. I had an If that was, custom painted M1 rebadged independent fabrications, and Todd Faust, one of your admins, messaged me and he was like, dude, was it like yellow flames, like yellow to green fade flames with a black back end? And I'm like, yes. And he goes, I think I know where that bike is. And I'm like, if you can find it, I'll buy it. And he's like, yeah, I was gonna buy it, but it just had a bunch of hoopty parts, and the dude was asking a little more than I wanted to spend on it. And I'm like, I don't want anything that's on there, like I just want the frame back if you can
Hmm.
find it. And he's like maybe a week or two later, he sent me a picture of it. He's like, I got it. And I was like, yes. So I think I funded his whole purchase just by what I gave him for the front triangle, but it's super cool. And that one's back in my possession now too. Just the front triangle. That's all I have, but it's still pretty neat because
Any plans to rebuild it?
I really don't have plans to rebuild it just because it's,
It'd
kind
take a
of a,
lot.
yeah, it would take a lot. Um, I got
I
to
got
pick my
a I got a
priorities in
spare I
life.
got a spare linkage. You just need a chain stay and a seat stay.
All right. I may take you up on that because that would, I mean, if I could complete the frame, I think that would be really cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Versus having like to try to build up the whole entire thing it would take some effort.
Yeah.
But I'm sure I could do it just because like honestly, just with your Facebook page, you could probably build whatever you want if it was,
Yeah.
if you have the money
Yeah,
and
the
the patience.
cool thing about the M1s is like what year did you say this one was? A 2000?
This, yep,
But like from 1998 all the way up to like 2003. I mean, so from 98 to 2000 they weren't Horselink, and then but they didn't always do model years. Between like 99 and 2000 they started going Horselink. But like the linkage will work, and then it's just a
yeah,
question on if you do Horselink or not. But a Horselink or a non-Horselink swing arm will both bolt to the same front end that you have.
yep,
So it's
yep.
just it's just kind of like Legos.
Yeah, I think this bike was a 99 front triangle and maybe like a 2000 swing arm and chainstay because going back to that the era, like Jeff Stieber was always pushing the limit of like what first of all what works the sickest and then how light can I make it.
Yeah.
So I never broke a front triangle of an Intense ever. I broke a bunch of the rear ends off of the Taser and a few, probably like three or four of the swing arms on the
Hmm.
M1. But every time, like it was insane because every single time he'd replace a swing arm, it would be a different version from the one before.
Yeah.
So even though like the model year didn't really change, the the progression never stopped. You know what I mean?
We tried to document like how many variations of the M1 there were and gave up. We got to like 30 different versions. We're like, dude, Jeff was just making new stuff every day.
It was so sick. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that bike. That bike was really special. And I mean, X Games for me, like in the fall of 99 was Mount Snow Finals. That was my first like really strong result. I got ninth at Norba National Champ Finals. Um, and um, yeah, that Ride magazine right there that you're clicking on, that was right after the Norba Nationals. My I guess I gave that one to my mom and dad
Oh,
because
right. Yeah.
I just see on the bottom, like I'm just laughing at that. I guess they must have given it back to me, like, um, thank you for doing such a good job raising me. It's hilarious.
Were you trying to
Um,
be funny?
I totally, yeah, this is
Okay.
just a joke. But that was I got ninth at that race, and it was like the weekend either before or after Mount St. Anne. So there was a pro class of, maybe 180 plus riders from all
Wow.
over the world. And I remember I was like the third fastest American there. Um, just like by far my best result up until that point, and that was 99 Mount Snow. And then the Ride magazine, this was a magazine based out of New England, and the magazine was really like everything bikes, but it was mostly also like cross country and um, that genre. But which was pretty common back then, but it was like mountain bike everything. So it's a small, like they called it Ride Zine because it was like black and white on the inside. But that was my first like real cover shot ever.
Right.
And I was so pumped about it.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah. So,
I have to ask you, I'm kind of taking a poll. Um, Rob Warner at one point was talking about derailleurs that would just break if you ever even looked at them. And Nigel Page told me that he used to break a derailleur every run. Did you ever have problems with these guys?
um, I don't know if I did every run, but I know like SRAM was a really good sponsor and
Uh-huh.
they'd like I don't know, when I'd get my like products sent to me, I think I would get like a dozen derailleurs.
Yep, yep. I
The
swear
one,
those things would fly into the spokes no matter how tight you had the limit screws adjusted.
yeah, the ones that were like kind of like that plastic material,
Yep.
like the black kind of plastic, those were a little bit problematic. But when they came out with the XOs that were like all aluminum,
Yeah.
I had really good luck with those things, with the
Yeah.
XOs. I think the those black plastic ones like in that picture, not so much.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember, because I was a bike mechanic. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I know how to adjust a derailleur, and those things would just fly into this on any kind of rowdy downhill. They just fly into
Yeah.
the spokes. I'm like, I know I had the limit screw adjusted.
Yeah, yeah.
But they looked rad though, and they're super light.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
But
and
that
then
was
I still have that helmet too. That helmet was painted just like the bike. Like it looks so sick. Like those
yeah.
guys like, crushed it. My crank helmet, that was I think my second or third season in that helmet, man. I KO'd myself in that helmet a few times. It's like it's crazy how unsafe helmets were back then compared to now.
Was Christina Beggy riding for Independent? Do you remember her?
I thi-
Blonde gal with like braids or dreadlocks or something?
I think so, yeah. Yep.
Rode with her in Moab one time. I think she was on the independent team. So okay, dude, I have a bunch of pictures from you and pictures you gave me, and you gave me your timeline, and I'm still confused. So
Yeah.
if I'm out of order, just like
Yeah, I think we're going a tiny bit out of order, but it's all good. It's all old school, so
yeah,
my memory is kind of clouded too, but so 99, if 2000, if 2001 Iron Horse. So this
okay.
was the year we signed on with Iron Horse bikes. And
So
yeah, it was
were they kind of like Horselink back then? That was prior to DW. I can't remember what Iron Horses there were back in like 2001.
yeah, this I think like the SGS and well, I was running an intense, well actually no, I was running a profile DR1.
No way.
Yep.
That wait, wait,
That's
is that the Law Wheel bike?
Yes, yeah. So I signed on with Iron Horse, kind of hoping to be running on an M1 because now I'm like, this would be like 98, 99, 2000 be my third year on an M1, and I wanted to stay on that bike. And I signed on with Iron Horse thinking that we were going to stay on intense. And it was kind of like part of like the appeal to me for that, you know?
Hmm.
And then Todd Tara Saplavy, uh, made a deal with Profile, and um, I never even like saw the bike until it showed up, and the thing was so sick. Like I really, really liked it. It was really long, it was really heavy, but it worked really, really well.
Hmm.
Yeah, we were running a Profile DR1. I ended up, I went over the bars at Mammoth on that one. I actually broke my neck, popped a few ribs out of my sternum, and just blew that like I blew the head tube wide open. I ripped the Lawwell link off the back. Like just I
Oh
destroyed
shit.
the bike in that crash. And I went back to the M1 and finished my Iron Horse season on I think it was actually my old M1 that I just peeled the if stickers on and put Iron Horse stickers on it maybe. Towards the very end of the season, because when I went to Rampage that year in '01, which was the first Rampage, I was on my M1. Yeah, there's the DR1 right on the right. That was the second
Okay,
time.
yeah. All right. I was looking at this picture. I didn't know what I was looking at. So that's a
Yep.
profile.
So that's the profile. Yeah. Super sick. Like I
How
really,
was
really like the bike a lot.
how was that thing?
I mean, I thought it was awesome. I've never really, I don't very often dislike bikes, like
Uh-huh.
the geometry on it was really good. The only thing that was difficult to get used to is that the rear end felt like really long.
Yeah.
Um, and it was. So that was the only thing that was like a little different. But for racing, um, the courses were different back then. It was just a really, really stable bike. And it was a little heavy, but it pedaled really well. And the
Hmm.
suspension works sick. So, and like it was just cool because it was a profile. Like I became a mega fan of profile like way before this, phase of my riding. The company actually started in New Jersey, right in Flemington, where our local BMX track is. Before they moved to Florida, I got to meet Dave Robichaud and work with him a lot on the design of this thing and like making tweaks and enhancements before he passed away. So that was kind of neat because it was like the first time I was actually like talking to the dude who made the bike, besides for Frank the Welder. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
it's not the first, shouldn't say that, but the second time I got to work with like the dude designing and making the bike. So it was just cool, like, um,
Were they pretty rare? I've never seen one in person.
yeah, they were definitely, I mean, they probably made, it's hard to say, I don't know, but like, if I had to guess, maybe less than 100 of them total,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, But yeah, they definitely were not that common. That's another bike I wish I had because, like that bike, the year after that, I repaired the head tube and like brought the bike back to life and I had it all repainted. Actually, BBR repainted it and anodized I had black forks on it. I made it into like a BBR replica, BBR motorcycles, the mini bikes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I made it into like a BBR replica downhill bike, and I was riding for BBR like riding racing pit bikes for them, and and just for like marketing purposes, I still had that bike in my quiver, and I was just brought it back to life. So I made the whole thing like black and gold with the BBR colorway on it, and we would
Hmm.
go and display like the moto bike and that bike. But I ended up selling that bike 25 years ago, and
That
it's
thing's
gone.
that thing's badass, dude.
Yeah, pretty
There's something
cool.
about that time. I just feel like bikes were cooler back then.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I've had a few M1s and there's no knocking M1s, but they're not that uncommon, but like that profile, it's a pretty uncommon bike.
Yeah, yeah.
So, is this X Games? What is this?
That is X Games. Yeah.
And were you
So,
still on Iron Horse?
no, I was on if. So the first year I got into X Games. So that was like I mentioned, I did really well at that Norba National Mount Snow race in like September or August of '99. This was January of 2000. Um, It was the first time I got into X Games and the last time mountain bikes were ever in the X Games. But it was a big, big breakout event for me because I put my homework into making tires, and I made some really good tires. Um, and they were awesome. I qualified first on day one. It was like soft and kind of like deep rutted snow.
Hmm.
And a lot of the like, they only invited like 30 pros from all over the world to compete at the X Games. Arguably, this was the biggest platform for mountain biking, period. Like, and I did Rampage a year later, but Rampage wasn't really like the X Games yet. You know what I mean? Now Rampage, I would say, is probably like one of the biggest, if not the biggest platform. But this was like the biggest. ESPN, ABC Wide World of Sports. It was kind of like the Olympics. And I
Hmm.
qualified first on day one in the soft stuff by like 3 seconds. And it was like a 1 minute course. And people were like, the clocks must be broken, or maybe it's because it's deep snow and he's an East Coast guy and he rides in the mud or whatever. And the next day it was bulletproof and solid, and I qualified first again. And I'll attribute it to just like a good head and really good tires. I did my homework on the tires before I showed up. I saw guys like that, I won't say who, but like some of the world's best premier guys, and they're all scrambling trying to figure out tires while we're on the slopes. And I was like,
Uh-huh.
I did my work before I went, and it paid off. And I won. It was brackets of six, so it was like not four cross, but 6-man four cross. So like not quite eight in the gate like BMX, but more than four and four cross. And you had to get top three to advance every round. And I won every round until the semifinals. And I just was an idiot. Like I was too confident, and I was going from fourth into the transfer spot to pass Nigel Page. And I just was like, I'll just pedal around him on the outside of this turn. And he just kept drifting, drifting, drifting. And he just never hooked up. He was flying, but he just never got traction. And
Uh-huh.
I thought I'd pedal around him, and we connected, and he sent me over the berm. I went back to sixth and worked my way back up to fourth, but I didn't make it to the main, but I won the consolation round. So that was good enough for seventh. And man, X Games was cool. Like they had concerts for us every night. Like Eminem played just for the
No
athletes.
way.
Standing next to Tony Hawk, listening to Eminem with like 30 X Game athletes total. Like,
Really?
yeah, and then they had like, like a full athlete lounge with all you can eat buffet all day long. Everybody got paid to be there. Like everybody. If you got invited, you got a paycheck. Um, I think for seventh, I got like $2,500 or something. Like,
Nice.
yeah, like it was, it was cool. It was really, really cool. What an experience.
And they haven't had mountain bikes back, huh?
No, they replaced it with like freestyle moto on the snow or something, or maybe snowmobile cross, snow cross, or
Yeah.
something like that.
Okay.
Um,
I don't know if I have this out of order or not.
we're close. We're kind of going in order. This is 2003.
Okay.
Um, so now I'm on Chumba. I did 1 year.
Chumbawamba.
That's it, baby. Yeah.
Before they got sued by the Brits.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, remember that song, I Get Knocked Down, but I Get Up Again?
Yep.
That band was Chumbawamba.
Yeah, I think they spelled it with an A though, but Chumbawamba maybe.
I
I
think
don't
it
know,
was
but
I think it was Chumbawamba, and I think they sued Ted. I'll have to
hmm,
look that up.
maybe that was the end. Maybe that was the transition that took place. But
That's my understanding. I bet you one of our friends will fact check me.
yeah, good. I hope so. This is
Yep.
good stuff. This was from Decline Magazine. This was like I had just won Masters World Championships in '03, so that was like it was kind of common back then. Now Masters is over 35 because, like people age slower. But back then, Masters started at 30. And in 2002, I was racing World Cups. And in 2004, I went back to racing World Cups. But you couldn't race um, a World Cup and Masters Worlds in the same year. So in '03, the Masters was in Bromont, and I was riding good, and I was just like, man, I want to try to get some rainbows, and I was able to pull it off. So this was a big article in Decline magazine, which was an awesome magazine. They kind of tried to model it after like Dirt magazine, I
Yep.
think with like the big print format, and it was just sort of like you know a little bit more just about me outside of just riding. But like you can see surfing and ripping the BBR pit bike in the middle there. There's the Masters podium. There's Tim Ponting on the left, and Sebastien Chevet from France was pretty proud to be like the American guy, like in between like a Frenchie and a Brit, like the two countries
Uh-huh.
that produce like the sickest mountain bikers ever. Um, I know there's a lot of countries now, but like they've always just had a legacy of sick riders. Um, but yeah, it was pretty cool. That bike was awesome too. It had like a prototype Fox remote reservoir shock that was like mounted to the seat post.
Oh
If you
yeah.
remember,
Yeah.
I had those gold tie nitrate fork legs, which were like I think they only made like a couple of those with that colorway, like black lowers and the gold stanchions.
Yep.
Um, like Ted like one off like custom built the chain guide on it. Like it was just such a sick bike. Um,
Yeah,
and
I
that
saw
was a good
Shams.
time.
Shams had a version of that bike that was like raw, but same chain guide, just like
Yep.
handmade chain guide. So Ted used to just make that stuff.
Yep. Yep. And I think I know who has that bike still to this day.
This black one?
No, that one I know. My buddy Steve has that one. He lives in New Jersey. I've always said like, if you ever get rid of it, I want first right of refusal, and it's like really flattering. He's like a cool guy. Now he's like a dad, with kids, but back then he was like a Grom and I was like the old guy. But he's just like, oh, this is like one of his prized possessions. He's like, I'll never get rid of it. So
Yeah.
I'm super pumped. I actually think it's cooler that somebody else has it and sort of knows the history behind it. I just wouldn't want it to like end up like in a junkyard. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Just
yeah.
because
Are you
it's
talking
just
about our friend Todd though, owning that other bike?
yeah.
I don't know
Yep.
how many bikes Todd owns, but he has a lot.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So
So,
this is Durango '03, same bike. You know, just I love that thing. And that was a really good season. I loved being a part of the Chumba team. I mean, it was Shams March, who you just mentioned, Lisa Scher, who was the national champ. Duncan Riffle was the junior on a team, and he went on to make a really good, successful bid as a professional downhiller. Um, and then Todd Bosch, of course, who was my ride or die wingman from the East Coast since day one.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it was just a really cool crew.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys, that must have been a heck of a team because a lot of you guys did really well.
And what was the coolest about it is like there was a lot of teams that would just be teams, but like we'd bomb practice together. Like we'd go out five strong. And I remember one year at Mount Snow, we all just murdered the rock garden. They called it yard sale at the bottom of the course, and we were all like, I think last day of practice, like all five of us just went through rat, 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 like people talked about that for so long. They just kind of like saw how we rolled as a team.
Hmm.
And, it's like good for the brand, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it kind of makes like, it kind of like, it makes an environment that like people will be like, oh, that's sick. Like, that's a cool program. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
So, like outsider looking in, how common is it for like teammates to actually like get together, train together, help each other, that kind of thing?
um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm sure there's always on every team, like you always want to do better than your teammates, right? Because that's
Yep.
just you want to call it what it is, man. You want to do better than everybody, whether they're your teammate or not. You're not
Yep.
you're not really showing up to just participate, not at that level. Um, you're showing up to like give it all that you possibly have. But like I'll be totally honest, like Shams was kind of like, the man on our team. Like I would have had to do something like miraculous, and he would have had to have made a mistake for me to beat
Hmm.
him. So I wasn't really competitive with Shams. I mostly was trying to learn from him.
Hmm.
And Todd was like one of my best friends. So we kind of just leaned in on each other. We were competitive. Like when the gate dropped, like we wanted to beat each other. There's no question.
Yeah.
And local races, I think I usually did better than him for whatever reason. And at nationals, he usually did better than me. But, we were just homies. So we'd celebrate each other's highs and lows. She was the girl to beat, So like there was no competition there. It was just like, let me learn lines from her. And, and maybe she can feed off of us maybe. And Duncan was, I think at the time, like 15 years old. And I remember when I first met him, it was Big Bear. And I didn't know him. I didn't meet him. Shams was like, this, we got to bring this guy onto the team as a junior. And I didn't, I was just like, whatever, kid, like, hop onto the train. And then when you don't drop them, like in practice, all of a sudden you're like, ooh, I don't want to get beat by the kid,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
But, because he was really fast at a young age. But, I don't know. We just had a really good crew. I don't really think it was all that competitive amongst us.
Hmm. Yeah, just
Honestly,
wondering.
like it was just like what made me want to do well was Ted. Like he would be in there like when he's lubing my chain, like he'd lube every single link like a pro mechanic would. And that was the first year I really had like mechanic support. And I wanted to crush it for him. You know what I mean? Like those bikes were so sick and um, I wanted to do well for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this
Any
is
um any idea what Ted is up to these days?
well, I know he was doing like mission trips with like World Vision,
Okay.
doing a lot of like just giving his time to um, you know, families all around the world or communities all around the world, but I actually haven't spoken with him in a handful of years. So
Okay.
really good-hearted guy. I loved him, man. Really chill demeanor. Hope he's doing well. I just haven't caught up with him in a while.
Yeah. Yeah, so where's this?
That is Sea Otter. That
That
was
is.
from a bicycling magazine, and that was definitely 2004 because that's when Deity Components first came to fruition. They basically, Eric and Sadie launched their company out of a gun case that year at Sea Otter.
Uh-huh.
Um, I had that bike painted white to match their stem and bars, and it was like they sent me the stem and bar. They were like, we're gonna make them white, and I was like, no way, I got to make my whole bike white then. So I asked. I guess it was Jeremiah Bubar, maybe John Dawson. I don't remember who I was working with at the time. Maybe Dawson at RockShox. Like, can you send me white forks? And Ted painted my frame white and all just because I wanted to match it to the bars and stem.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I've been with Deity Components since 2004. Really, honestly, I've been with Eric since probably 2001 when he worked at MRP. And he started Deity in 2004, and all through 2003 he was kind of behind the scenes like the mad scientist, launching his brand. I think he left MRP in '02 maybe. um, and I freaking love them, man. Like they're Eric and Sadie are like salt of the earth, and they they're special. There's it's no surprise to me that their company's doing so well. They're still completely owned by the two of them, no corporate investors. They're in it for the riders. Like they treat their riders like family, and just like I couldn't be more proud to represent them. And
Are they still making white components?
I think they're bringing them back actually, but
Okay.
they got all kinds of colorways now. If you haven't
Well,
checked
I
them,
I gotta get some. I'm building up a lime green Nikolai downhill bike, and I'm like racking my brain. How am I gonna make a lime green bike look cool? I'm like, I gotta go white.
yeah, yeah. I had a green bike that I went white with back then too.
Yeah.
You could go white, you could go actually might have even had white bars on one of my green iron horses. But like
I bought a white Fox 40, I think some green bars and maybe like green saddle or green rims.
yeah, there you go.
I don't want to go red. It'll look too crazy.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah, there's my old green iron horse with white forks and white bars.
this one?
Yep, that
Yeah.
one and then off to the right. Yeah. Yep. You can't see the bars in that picture, but um um
Yeah.
yeah.
So were you working closely with Dave Weagle?
I was actually when I was on this bike. So after 3 years with Chumba, um, it's kind of weird because I never really like went out and hunted for bike sponsors. Like I
Hmm.
just always like the way I approached every sponsor I ever had was like my job is to sell their product, right?
Yeah.
And like even when I was with Chumba, I was like, hey, can you set me up with like an account so I can sell your frames to like the good riders, the people you want on the bikes, and that can be a way that I can help finance my racing. So I set up a deal with Ted just because they were really like, direct to consumer for the most part back then.
Uh-huh.
And I set up a deal with him like where I could get bikes for cost or like a discount, and then I could sell them and make like, a couple $100 off a frame. Maybe it's 100, maybe it's $200. And I sold like, I don't know, 30 of them to all these riders and entire teams on the East Coast. And, like that actually shows the brand like and shows the rest of the mountain bike community like, hey, look at the contribution this dude's making to the brand. Maybe we should like get him on board because he'll sell stuff. But anyway, long and short of it is I went like from if to Chumba to Iron Horse, back to Chumba, back to Iron Horse, like through my career. So it
Yeah.
was kind of just, when opportunities presented. But after 3 years with Chumba, yeah, I was good friends with Dave Weagle. He was like a college kid racing downhill on the East Coast, and then he became like the dude who's designed more suspension platforms than probably almost any individual, and like for other like multiple brands, the DW Link, the Split Pivot, like you name it. Started
Oh, I
E13.
thought Trek invented the split pivot. What's up?
Wait, for real?
No.
I was gonna say, if you don't know that story,
No.
throw up in your mouth kind of a story.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just like a whole disgusting story. It's like appalling.
Ah,
But
the bike industry is full of that
it
shit, dude.
blows my mind. But
Yeah.
yeah, so for 2 years I went back to Iron Horse, not as like a racer. I went back in their art like as an R&D rider, and that was like the best. It was actually the best contract I ever had. It was a really good salary, a really good expense, budget to travel for me. Not for like Sam Hill. It would have, but at the time they had Sam Hill on their team. They had that whole like Mad Catz Iron Horse team. I think like Jared Graves, like they had like
Yeah.
top tier athletes at that point in time. I'm kind of like retired. I had like my first son in 2006. I'm like done. I'm kind of like one foot in, one foot out. But Dave kind of knew like I have a good head on my shoulders. I can articulate things. I can feel a bike. And he's like, come and do R&D with me. And Iron Horse basically sent me like 8 or 9 different bicycles, and my job was to break them. It was the best job ever. It was like go and just break stuff. But like not like ghost riding it, like just do stupid stuff that you wouldn't normally do on your own bike because just growing up through the era, like it's really kind of easy to break a bike if you want to, but when you're paid to break bikes, it makes it kind of cool. Like you're like, I know I could take that drop, but um I
And
don't
they
really
get
want to 'cause I'll probably break something. You know what I
and they
mean?
gave you a travel budget?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, like here you're on a road trip like just through the desert riding bikes. Was that paid for by Iron Horse?
Yeah. This one was actually cool. So we did a show called Nomads, and it was the first show that was shot on HD. Well, not first show, but it was like the first time any of us shot with HD. They had these monstrous, like 50-pound cameras, and that was in Goblin Valley, Utah. I spent like 5 days and we camped. It was Doug Dalton from Cannondale, Cedric's mechanic back in the day.
Uh-huh.
He kind of organized a lot of it. JD Swangen, myself, Chris Van Dyne, Nick Van Dyne, Amelia Colasurdo. And we started with Wayne Goss, but he got hurt like on the way to Goblin Valley riding some like mine vent pipe. Um, and Sean Spomer, who's vital, he's the one who took that pick. But yeah, that was like, I was still racing, so it wasn't like a travel budget just to do R&D, but like I was still racing. But yeah, somehow Dave Weagle put myself, Dave Smootok, if you know that name,
No.
he's the head man in charge at Highland Bike Park in New Hampshire, but he was
Oh.
like a super sick free rider. I think, big name back then. Like the Groms might not realize when they're up at Highland talking to Dave, like his legacy, but super nasty rider. There was like a few of us, this guy Len Hornich out of Whistler. he just assembled a bunch of guys that were um I don't know, just really loved riding bikes and also could punish them, you know? So that
So
was the
quick
job, was just to try to break the bikes. It's cool.
quick tangent. Dave Weigel, did he go off and like become like a defense contractor or engineer for
I
defense or
think,
something before getting back into bikes? Because he commented on like I didn't want to build bombs, I wanted to build bikes or something to that effect.
yeah, I think he did that like even before the mountain bike world. He was working on like an exoskeleton that you could like a human could put on
Okay,
and run at like 30 miles an hour or whatever.
that's kind of
Um,
cool.
Super cool, but like the human body couldn't take it, so they kind of I think abandoned project. Like they make people run so damn fast that like all their tendons and ligaments would just shred.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I fact check me on that one because I don't know if that's exactly how it unfolded, but yeah, he was doing a bunch of that stuff. He's like a mad scientist,
Yeah.
and
And he was a downhill racer.
yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah, good rider.
he just decided to get into kinematics, I guess, and he was gonna figure out suspension.
Yeah, I mean, like Iron Horse was an East Coast company. Tara Saplavi was like the one of the product managers there and raced, and we're all kind of like just friends. Like we'd all just hang out at Plattekill by the campfire and race mountain bikes and stuff. And I think Iron Horse was the first bike that Weagle designed because he's just like he did it right around the same time as starting E13 and the chain guide, and
Yeah.
he just was like he's just
The
crazy smart and super into it. So he was like,
the
I could do something better, you
the
know?
horse link that like Nathan Rennie was on, I guess that was Mad Cats. That was like Dave Weigel. I think there was like an Iron Horse platform and they already had like the front end like solidified and they're like, yeah, you can like mess with the linkage. And he's like, okay.
Yeah.
And I guess he just tried to make it like as close to the M1 as he could, given like he was stuck with it was something. And I'm not embellishing, but I'm trying to put into words what I remember he said was he was like stuck with the front end. He couldn't do anything, but he wanted to make it as close to an M1 as possible. And that's what they came up with was that horse link bike that Nathan won. Did he win the world championship on that bike?
Maybe World Cup overall, I
Yeah, yeah,
think.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then he did E13. He
I
did
mean, honestly,
obviously,
how Nathan did that on that bike was mind blowing because like the Iron Horse bikes, I mean, I had like the SGS bike, I think it was in this era, and I just drilled a whole entire new hole in the frame to put the shock through. Like because it had like a two plates like holding the two tubes together and
yeah,
where the shock mounted through, you could just put a hole wherever you want.
yeah.
But I wanted my bottom bracket lower and the bike to be slacker, so I just drilled a new hole and put the shock right in there. Like there was definitely some old school like DIY, like how do we make this, how do we polish this turd? You know what I mean? And that's you're probably right. I do remember now, like that linkage in the rear end was, I think, where it all started for Dave. That's pretty
I
sick.
just learned, like, I knew that he did the split pivot, which uh, Trek stole. I guess I can say that. Maybe he won't. But he did another design. I just learned, I think today or yesterday, that he did the Da Vinci. I can't remember the name, but there's a high pivot Da Vinci that has a split pivot, but it's this high pivot swing arm with like a boomerang looking swing arm. I didn't realize
Yeah.
he designed that bike too. I don't know how many bikes he's designed. He's designed a shit ton.
Yeah, I think he did a lot with like Pivot, Da Vinci, Iron Horse, um,
Turner,
Atherton,
Ibis.
Turner, Ibis. Yeah, like I mean, so many iconic brands that
Yeah.
run his design in
Yeah.
one shape or another. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the dude that like he popularized the term. I'm sure the term was used all over the place outside of mountain biking, but he's the dude that got people to understand kinematics, like what the term meant, right?
Yep.
Like he
Yep.
wrote like dwlink.com was like this is what the word kinematics means, you know? Like he went hardcore into it. So,
That's so sick.
I'm out of order on some of this stuff. So, dude, I didn't realize until we talked last time that you were in Red Bull Rampage #1
Yep.
in
Yep.
2001. We're out of order.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
2001. Yeah. So that's the that was I think in practice. I kind of like just landed wrong and ended up going over the bars. Didn't get hurt in that picture, but it's a cool picture. That's like one of the few you can like even find anywhere from that I can find. The Running Man.
Yeah.
Um, right before I hit the ground, I think there's video and like the chain reaction. I think that might even be a screen grab from the video, possibly. I'm not sure, but um, yeah, I ended up getting invited to Rampage. It was completely foreign to me. I never rode any dirt like that. I was so out of my element, but really cool. I think there were maybe 24 riders that were invited that first year,
Hmm.
or somewhere around there. 12 would make it to the finals. I qualified 11th. Um, we went up to do there was no like wind holds or anything. I mean, it was just like you just send it and it's kind of like and pray. Um, but nobody really had good second runs because it was so windy. But like I was sitting in 11th and only 12 make it to the next day. So I'm like, I can't not go up because I'm not willing to just rely on an 11th. That would only mean like two people would only have to better their runs. If you crash in your first run with that crop of riders, you're not making it to the finals. So, as it turned out, I did make it to the finals by placing. I stayed in 11th, but I got blown off track on my second run. Like I just got blown like 6 feet to the left and landed in some of that like scrub and deep stuff. And I completely blew my knee up, ACL, MCL, PCL. So I got sidelined and gave up my spot to Greg Smith. And it was really cool because Greg, I think, was riding for Lens Sport. You remember that
Oh
brand?
yeah, yeah.
And so he was able to go into the finals because he took my spot, and the dude ended up getting second, which was like insane. Because, again, the crew of riders that were there was like all the big free riders, like the Wade Simmonses and the Benders and Richie Schley and was Richie? Yeah,
I
he was
think
there.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, Brett Tippy wasn't there the first year. He was there the second year. I think he was injured in year one or something. But it was like that whole like Mike Kinrad, like that whole BC crowd, like the Godfathers of free ride basically, and then there was like
Yeah.
a handful of racers like myself, and we were just kind of thrown in. But anyway, yeah, that was my. I went to the second Rampage as well, which I think it was the very next year. And I rode all right, but I think I was like 15th or 17th. I didn't make it to the finals. Um, I was happy to make it out of there alive, to be honest.
Yeah.
And um, after that, like the Rampage, I mean, it started morphing pretty early. Like you couldn't just flow and go big anymore. Like you had to be throwing tricks in the middle of your runs. Um, like meaningful tricks, like spinning or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You had to be doing like and that's not really in my wheelhouse. So I didn't get invited back to the third Rampage, but nor did I really like want to be invited back because I already felt like I'd be out of my element, like it was no longer the event kind of outgrew me, I guess is a good way to say it. Um,
I mean
but
it.
really honored to be a part of the first two of them, like that's pretty cool. Like
So Chris Bauman, I think, kind of organized the Rampage number one. Do you remember? Did he contact you and invite you?
no, I think well, I don't really know like what role he played in it. Todd Barber was like the guy who put it on.
Hmm.
I know Chris dropped in first, but how that worked is, like we're all sitting under the Red Bull tent at the bottom, I think on like day one, like right after practice, and you pick your number plate. Like they had all the number plates like, in a basket or whatever, and it was sort of like picking your clothes hanger to see what gate you get in moto. You like
Hmm.
pick um you just reached into the bucket and you pull out a number plate, and whatever number plate you got was the position you started in. And Crispy drew the number one plate, so which is sick because he's still got that, I'm sure.
I
The
had
first
heard that he invited all the first year. He invited everybody. Like he was like the one local that kind of knew the area, scouted the area, and invited all the dudes.
well,
That's
I'll
what I
tell you
heard.
what. I know he's still really active in the world of downhill. I just saw him. He's running a sick program out in
Yeah,
Utah,
yeah.
like coaching and really playing a huge role. And I'll ask him when I go back out to Utah this summer because the
Well,
pro downhill season is going back out there, and I'll give him a big fat hug for that because that's cool. I
he's
didn't know he played a role in that.
yeah,
So
he's on my podcast. So he and I know a lot of the same dudes from Utah. Like I can't remember this guy Dean owned a bike shop out there, Bike Zion. And I used to sell to Dean back when I was at WTB. So I remember Dean. And Chris is like, yeah, dude, I was working with this guy, Dean. He was fucking crazy. I'm like, no way, dude. Bike Zion? He's like, yeah. And Dean had this idea. He wanted to put on some kind of like a free ride show. And like Chris told Dean, he's like, dude, I know where to go. Let's go to Virgin. I'm going to show you some shit. And showed Dean, and Dean like called Red Bull and was like, dude, we need to do this. That's the story. It's in the podcast. If people want to go listen to it, I don't know.
that's cool. That's cool.
So
That's
that was amazing for me to hear because Chris was like, "Dude, we should talk about like how Red Bull Rampage happened because I'll tell you how it happened." He's a super good dude. He is still riding and racing a 2009 Turner DHR.
really
Yeah, he's still. I mean,
so
he's got
26
modern
inch
bikes
wheels
too. I think he's got like a carbon V10, but he still races his 2009 Turner.
with
So
26-inch wheels.
it's a mini mullet because he's only like 5'4" or something.
Oh yeah, yeah. All
So
right.
it's got like a 27.5 front, like in a 38 millimeter triple eight. You can run a 27.5.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a rad bike. So
Yeah,
anyway,
that's cool.
Crispy's a good dude. He's one of the OG free riders.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
legend has it he helped put Red Bull Rampage together. I don't know.
Very cool. I knew he was like, that was his corner of the world and all that, but I didn't realize he was that much of a yeah, that's a picture from mountain bike action. You gotta love the print, man. Like um yeah, it actually talks about that story that I just shared.
Yeah,
But yeah, so you gotta love, man. I wish there was still print. Like nothing felt as good, especially for like an East Coast dude, because all the mags were based out of the West Coast. Nothing felt as good as getting in a magazine. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Shit just
yeah.
lived forever. Like it was like I got a whole box full of stuff that like you know, it's just super cool. But yeah, I
So
think actually
you were on Iron Horse, but still racing an M1.
yep. Yep. Yeah, I remember I started my Iron Horse year on that DR1 and I blew the frame up at Mammoth. So
Oh, right.
I
Okay.
went back on the M1 to finish the season on Iron Horse with that. Because Iron Horse
Nice.
really didn't have a bike, a downhill capable bike then. Um, a couple years later when they made that like SGS DH that Weagle did the rear end on for Rennie and stuff, that was like when they first got into it. But it was like way before the Sunday existed and anything like that. So
Yeah.
they were still in that rebadge era, and I was back on the M1 there at Rampage number one.
And this is mountain bike action that you're in here.
Yep.
Do you still have that copy?
Yeah, probably, man. Yeah, I do actually. I've got like I got a cardboard box full of like maybe two cardboard boxes just full of that kind of stuff.
That's awesome.
Kind of annoying because if I save the magazine, I know I'm in it, or like one of my homies is in it, but I don't have like the pages marked. So it's kind of like maybe someday I'll like break them out just to go through them all to find like where's Waldo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I saved the magazine, so I gotta be in here somewhere. But I have like boxes of them, and like I don't know, man. I never really like every time I got to print, I always felt like I was a working dude. I always had a job. Like I was just so damn proud to make it into the pages with like all my idols. You know what I mean? Like to me, it was like, damn, like I can't believe that like this is happening. And so that's why
Your coworkers must have thought you were crazy.
yeah, yeah. I work in biotech, so I'd show up to work like in a cast,
Yeah.
we're on crutches pretty regularly, like
Yeah.
and working with doctors all the time and stuff. And some of my docs just they loved it. Like, what'd you break this time? And like it was hard to do because it was like 5 Norba Nationals. I'd always fly out, on like Wednesday night after work, get there super late, practice Thursday, Friday, race Saturday, um, and then, fly home Sunday and back to work. Sometimes I'd be taking red eyes and just rolling straight from the airport to work Monday morning. Like it was
Yep.
not easy, but I loved it. And I made a lot of sacrifices. Like I missed a lot of my friends' weddings. I missed a lot, but I was like all in and super focused and driven, and the only way I could make it happen is the way I was doing it at that time. It was kind of tough to make, a good living because like in the late 90s, people were making good money racing mountain bikes. And then 99, the year that I started doing well was the year Lance Armstrong started winning like his third or fourth tour. And a lot of the money in cycling went from mountain bike to road.
Oh.
And like that article, like that the white the picture you showed from Sea Otter with the white Chumba, that
Hmm.
was I think 2004, and that whole article was called "Will Race for Food,"
Oh,
because
really?
they were just talking about it, just how hard it is to make a dollar in mountain biking.
Yeah.
It was a really tough era, and that's
Yeah.
that's a Ian Highland's photo. Who's It's actually cool because now he's with Deity, and that's obviously rocking those famous white bars and stem on the
Yep.
white bike. '04 Sea Otter raced in a suit,
What is that?
suit
A
and tie.
silo? A silo fork with a.
It is. Yeah, damn, your eyes are good, man. I wouldn't even remember what that fork was.
It's
Dress
got
shoes
those.
and all.
It's got those funky quick. It's a 20 millimeter through axle with quick releases, kind of like a Marzocchi ZR20, but
Yeah.
different. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just a bike geek, is all. Sea Otter's rad though. That was my first ever mountain bike race. I raced Sea Otter in 1994 and raced cross country. I didn't race downhill, but yeah. And then when did you hop on to GT? This is a later GT. Here you are, maybe like
Yeah,
2000, 2008 or so.
no, 2011, I believe
Okay.
I signed on with GT under Wingman program. So it was not their factory race team, but it was like me, Kyle Strait, Tyler McCall, just, mountain bikers, right? And at this point, I was pretty much, again, I think I retired every year from like 2006 on. Um, but I was still just out there riding and doing my thing. And then I'd show up to a bunch of races and then I'd go race worlds. And Steve Spencer brought me on in 2011, went and raced Masters Worlds again and, you know, did well there in Brazil and won my second Masters World title on GT. And then basically just became like a brand ambassador, like kind of wasn't getting paid by GT. I was just honored to get bikes from them because
Hmm.
it's freaking GT. And I started my racing life on a GT, and it was just so cool to kind of be on the brand again because it's like just such a sick brand.
Talk about
Um,
another dude, Jim Busby, designed the RTS, the LTS, the iDrive, and this Fury is just a later version of the iDrive, right?
yep.
Instead of
Yeah,
having the big
totally.
eccentric, the bottom bracket is on a swing link, but it's the same kind of concept. Jim Busby,
Yeah.
I don't know if he's quite as attuned into kinematics as Dave Weigel, but I mean he was earlier too.
Yeah. This bike was really fun. It was super playful. I know like one of the challenges was like getting pedal feedback or brake jack or whatever, but like I love this bike. I thought it was awesome. Um, and it looks super sick, full carbon, just like super trick, super. What's funny is that bike right there. Um, I think no, it's not that one. It was the next year. I went to Brazil the year after, 2011, because I did really, really well in 2011 there and won by a good margin. And once you're like, go back and win another Masters World title, just because, like you got to believe it in your head, right? It's not like
Yeah.
being cocky, you're just believing it in your head. And I ended up not winning, but some dude was trying to buy my bike from me. And I was like, no, like if I win, I want to keep this thing. And I didn't win. I got second, which I've gotten second like 7 times at Masters Worlds. Cool story. So this is like 2000. I'll go back to that GT story because it's kind of fun, or that Brazil story because it's funny. But this is Argentina just a few years ago. Um, I've been able to do three Masters World titles, and I've done them like a decade apart, each one. So I won when I was 32 or 33. I won when I was like 40 in the 40 to 45 class. And then I won when I was in the 50 to 55 class. So that's kind of cool. Um, a lot of near misses in between. I think seven times second place. Never to the same guy, but this was super cool because Peter Hannock on the left, super fast, like elite national champ in slalom, like beat Lopes and like super talented guy out of Colorado,
Wow.
really fast. And Rowan Sorrell on the right or my right if I'm looking. Um, he's out of Wales. He owns Bike Park Wales, and he's an old school like really fast pro rider too. Um, Rowan was in the same hotel as I was, and we just started chatting like right the night that I got there. And he's like, "Hey, you're Lars." I'm like, "Yeah." And he's rowing, cool. And we hung out and had a really good time. And then the next day, it was like, "We're gonna walk the course tomorrow." Yeah. So we decided we're gonna walk the course together. And then I saw Peter at the chairlift. So I introduced Peter to Rowan, and the three of us walked the course together. We ended up getting dinner together. We practiced together the next day, got dinner together the next day. And all three of us we hung out all week together. And then we all won together, which was so rad. Luckily, we're all in three different categories, and
You're
luckily,
right.
I'm not in theirs because they're both younger and faster than me. But just really, really cool. Yeah, and that's the last Masters World I did. I think that was 2023. Might have been 22, but I think it was 2023.
Yeah.
Um,
Are you
but yeah,
still are you still racing now?
um, this was like my last season really racing. I did race. I think I went out to race the year after, early in the year, uh, like I was broke my leg. I brought my who was kind of new at the time girlfriend with me to a race because she's like, "Oh, I want to see you do your thing," and I was like, "Yeah, I'll show you how cool I am," and broke my leg, so that kind of sucked. Um, and then, last year I had both hips replaced. I got metal poisoning from it. I had to get both replacements taken out and redone. Um, the third one, no, the second one got infected. So I had five like huge surgeries last year.
That
I
is
was planning
gnarly.
on racing Masters Worlds because it's back in Chile this year, and I love that country. I think it's so cool. So I was just, for me, like, whenever like Masters Worlds goes to like a new rad country that I haven't been, that's usually what inspires me to like, all right, I'm gonna go race next year because it's in like fill in the blank to the rad
Yeah.
country. This
Yeah.
year, Patagonia, Argentina. I'm like, I've wanted to go there my whole life. So my brother went with me. We rode adventure bikes around for a week, and then I raced, and that was like a vacation trip.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm not done. Like I'll get back between the tape. I'm just sort of I was planning on racing last year because I wasn't really planning on getting four hip replacements. But then my buddy Clay Harper, who owns the Pro Downhill series, like I did some announcing at the US Opens for the last few years in the finish line corral, and I guess this is 2 years ago now. And he was like, "Hey man, we're gonna build out a full, Pro Downhill series in the US, and we'd love to have you on board." So it kind of like just put a nail in the racing itch because the reason that I really wanted to go back out and race is just I love the environment. I love the freaking people. I love the mountains, like the culture. And I was banged up and it was like, all right, well, I can go be a part of it. I just, my body's not working right now, but my mouth works. So let's try this announcing thing. So next thing I know, I'm like helping the captain announce the Pro Downhill Series, live show, and end up like hosting the YouTube post race production, and it's kind of opened up a new chapter and just like a way to be involved in the sport. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm up to now.
That's badass. Yeah, I saw you doing some announcing probably on the internet. I can't remember where, but Mikey Hatter lives like right near me. So I
Yep,
guess he
yep.
went out and did some announcing with you at one of the races. I can't remember where.
Yeah, we did the US Open. He was doing US Open with Captain, and I was basically where I started. I was just doing like the finish line interviews because I guess I was I started like volunteering at a BMX track, and the next thing I know, like nobody wanted to announce, so it was like, crap, now I gotta be an announcer. Like this is not for me, but I just did it because nobody else would do it. And then probably like 2017, the US Open was coming back because it was on a hiatus for a while. Maybe 2018, I don't remember the exact year, but I said to Clay, I'm like, dude, there's so much cool energy in the finish line crowd. Like when like you come down and cross the line as an athlete, you literally feel like a knight in shining armor that just freaking slayed a fire-breathing dragon and
Yeah.
lived. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's an energy there that is not reproducible. Like very many places in life. And I
And
just thought it
most
should
most people never
go ahead.
experience that. Like, to you and me to a lesser degree, like that.
Oh, you just froze.
Oh, I froze? Am I back? Am I
Can
back?
you hear me?
Oh, you
You're all
froze.
frozen.
No, you're frozen. Not again.
You froze up, Chuck, on my end.
Darn it, you're frozen on my end. Can you hear
Oh,
me okay?
oh, I got you back. Yep, I got you back.
You can hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you.
I was just saying, like most people that don't get into, I mean, mountain biking especially, but most people that don't get into a sport to that degree and that level, they'll never understand that feeling. But dude, there
Right.
have been races where I felt like I literally went to war, like
Yeah.
I've had races where like I broke ribs, got a concussion, tore my hand off, got blood all over my bike, and still finished like this one I'm thinking of, 1441. Came in fourth place with two broken ribs, a concussion, my hand torn off, and blood all over my bike. I swear to
Yeah.
God, I felt like I went through battle, dude. Like
Totally, man.
people,
Totally.
most normal people never ever experience that.
Yeah. So I wanted to capture the energy. So I just said to Clay, I'm like, can I go in a finish line corral and announce? And he's like, yeah. And then that's how this whole like pro downhill series thing started. So I would say, like the US downhill, it's making a comeback. Like it's going to be impossible to replicate the Norba National Championship series of like the late 90s. But that's sort of what we're striving for. Clay's vision with this Monster Energy Pro Downhill series is to create a platform for um, I mean, we're getting riders from all over the world already,
Hmm.
but create a platform for American youth to like go out there and have a stepping stone to the World Cups, right? Like, where do you go to be ready for the world stage? Like downhill was kind of like there was no like big series, there were a lot of regional series that are awesome
Hmm.
and those will keep going and those will stay strong and but we needed like a national series like AMA Supercross, you know what I mean? Or AMA Outdoor. Like we needed a series here where you could make a living just racing the domestic series,
Yeah.
especially now with like World Cup format, like 30 dudes, like you need to have more than 30 people making a living racing bikes, right? So the vision is to build it and we're doing it. So I would say for any of the old school mountain bike heads that do listen all this deep into the podcast, like go to YouTube and check out the Monster Energy Pro Downhill series. And the coverage is insane. The guys at Gravity Co-op have like 15 cameras on course. You really can get a flavor of like the riders that we try to highlight the personalities so the riders can brand themselves off of it, like creating permanent numbers. So like in moto, like Bubba Stewart rocking the number 7, not anymore,
Yep.
but you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
it becomes like a brand, now his clothing brand is 7, you know what I mean? Like we're trying to actually Aaron Gwynn is rocking number 7 now in the Pro Downhill series. So
Nice.
and Kelly Skelton both are the current winners. But yeah, it's just cool. Like Intense is fielding a domestic pro team to focus on this series, like the companies in the US are starting to build their programs around it. So we're trying to bring it back to the glory days that you and I try to relive through your Facebook page. You know what I mean?
Right. Are you going to be helping them again this year?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah, so I'll be on site announcing in the corral. I think the closest one to you will be Big Bear, unless you
Hmm.
make it to Utah because we got stops in Utah and California.
Hmm.
So definitely come down and check it out.
Yeah, also, anytime you want help, promoting, I can post it on all my different pages and stuff. So just let me know. Hit me up.
Sick,
Yeah.
sick. I will. Thank you. Cool.
Lars, thank you. It's 8 9:35 your time, so it's getting late, and I got to get my kid fed. But thanks for making this happen and coming on for a second time, because the first time, I don't know if we mentioned, we had a little bit of a technical snafu. So thanks for coming on and doing it again with me. It's fun.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. And hopefully people, check it out and enjoy it. And you know, it's just great to relive some of these moments. Thanks for doing it. Keep
Yeah,
up the
it's a lot of
killer
fun.
work.
A lot
Yeah,
of fun. I get to meet people like you. Everybody has just been, everybody I've met, a lot of the old school dudes have all just been like super humble, super friendly, just kind of stoked. So it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for being,
killer.
thanks for
Keep
being
up the
part of it.
great work. Yeah, and it's great to get to know you a little bit better. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, dude. Thank
All
you
right,
so much. We'll
awesome.
do it again.
All right, sounds good. See you, Chuck.
See you, Lars.